Does anything you do actually matter? I'm sure we've all had this experience. It's 2 a.m., you can't sleep. Nothing even went wrong that day. Your brain just decided now is a great time to question everything. Your whole life, every decision, every version of yourself you thought you'd be. And before you know it, you've come to the conclusion, nothing I do actually matters. Nothing. None of it. And the scary part is, you're not wrong. You see, our universe is infinitely huge. And we, unfortunately, are so infinitesimally small that if we took a drone, stuck it up on our head, and let it fly into the sky, in about 45 seconds of flying time, we would disappear from the drone's point of view. That's only a distance of 120 meters away. 45 seconds is where you essentially become forgotten, where you stand with no trace. And it's not just that. In 1990, NASA's Voyager 1 took a photo of Earth from 6.4 billion kilometers away, the farthest a photo of Earth was ever taken. Can you imagine how big Earth was in that photo? It was 0.12 of a pixel. That's it. Every human who ever lived, every technological breakthrough, every war ever fought, all of it was condensed into 0.12 of a pixel. It was a pale blue dot lost in a scattered ray of sunlight. And that's just our neighborhood. We can keep zooming out to the size of the Milky Way, then giant superclusters, all the way to the observable universe. And the more you zoom out, the more Earth disappears until it's not even worth mentioning. So against all of that, what does one human life actually weigh? A few years back, my family and I were going to vacation in Mexico. Me and my infinite wisdom thought, let me become fluent in Spanish. Mind you, I had maybe a month till we left. So I did the smartest thing I could do, and I bought the most expensive language subscription I could find. Because obviously, the more money you spend, the more committed you are. And I kept telling myself, I was going to be fluent. I was going to be ordering food, having conversations, maybe even dreaming in Spanish by the time I landed. Needless to say, I didn't make it to the second lesson. And I don't think I'm alone in that. In fact, I bet every single person in this room has had a version of that story. A language, a gym membership, a novel half written in a drawer somewhere. We've all set out for something with total conviction and quietly let it go. Not dramatically, just slowly, until one day you realize it's been months and you still can't order food without pointing at a menu. And here's what gets me. That's us at our most ambitious. That's us actually trying, and most of us still don't get there. So if we can't leave a mark on our own small lives, what mark could we possibly leave on the Earth, let alone the universe that contains it? So here we are, tiny, temporary, a speck of dust in a universe where we will leave no trace. Ernest Hemingway said that a man dies twice in his lifetime. The first, when he stops breathing, and the second, when his name is said for the last time. And for the average person, that is only 4 generations until every connection you have is lost and you are forgotten. I mean, can any of you name your great-great-grandfather? So this all leads back to the question, why? Why does anything matter? Why do we stand here thinking our life has value? Why does any of this have meaning? And from what I have realized, it doesn't. And that's the most beautiful thing of all. And I know what you're thinking. How is any of that beautiful? You just told me nothing I do matters. You just told me the universe doesn't care, that I'll be forgotten. How is any of that beautiful? Well, it's because we've been missing the verdict. If the universe doesn't care, if you'll be forgotten anyway, you don't have to search for meaning. You can just live. You don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to justify your choices, be the best, the most remembered, the most successful. I mean, think about the last conversation you had that felt real. A meal you cooked for someone. A song that hit you at exactly the right moment. None of that was cosmically required. Nobody assigned it meaning. You just chose it and it mattered. Not because it lasts, but because it happened. And it turns out I wasn't the only person to lose sleep over this. French philosopher Albert Camus came to this exact same idea. He called it the absurd, the collision between humans desperately searching for meaning and a universe that offers total silence in return. And his answer wasn't despair, it was freedom. The idea that we can rebel against the absurd by continuing to live anyway. And he illustrated this with Sisyphus, a Greek mythological figure condemned by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill. Now, Sisyphus would push the boulder up the hill, it would roll back down, and he would have to push it up again forever. And while researching Camus' life, I came across something that changed how I saw all of it. Camus said, imagine Sisyphus happy. Not because the boulder reaches the top, or because he wins, but because he chose to push. The act of pushing, the act of living. That is the rebellion. That is the freedom. Now, Sisyphus was required by the gods to push the boulder up a hill. But imagine you, someone who is cosmically not required to do anything. Imagine how different every choice becomes. Because if nothing is assigned meaning, then meaning becomes something you create. And suddenly, life stops becoming about permanence and becomes about choosing how to live anyway. So where does that leave us? Well, I'll tell you where it left me. When I truly accepted nothing I do matters, it felt like an immense pressure lifted off from me. But it also left me empty. Because as humans and as a society, we are so accustomed to finding meaning and purpose that we get consumed by it. And we forget to ask ourselves if we're actually enjoying any of it. And that emptiness, it isn't bad. It left me open. Not open to some grand reinvention, just open to try something new because it felt right. To live without someone else's expectations. For me, that looked like making music and creating things I actually loved. I would sit down, and instead of asking myself what sounds good to others, I would make music that sounded good to me. In hindsight, some of the music I was making would probably make your ears bleed. But I had more fun in those minutes than I ever did trying to make something to please everyone. And nobody asked for it. The universe didn't need it, but I chose it. And for the first time, that felt like enough. And Camus understood this perfectly. He didn't tell us to go find our purpose. He didn't tell us to become unforgettable. He simply told us to live, to rebel against the silence by continuing to live anyway. Look around this room. Every single person you see is running out of time. And the thing is, nobody knows how much time we have is left. And what the tragedy is that most of us spend that time waiting. But the thing is, the life we're waiting for, we're already in. Because eventually, the boulder will roll down again, and eventually, Sisyphus will have to push it back up. And maybe that's all life ever was. Just showing up, choosing to push, and for a brief moment, in an impossibly large universe, being alive. Thank you.